Hi, everyone. Welcome to First and North. My name is Lou Canellis at Fox 32 in Chicago. Joining me this week on First and North. Let's bring up the crew. From Fox in Detroit, Jennifer Hammond. From Fox Milwaukee, Tim Van Vooren. And from Fox Minneapolis, Ahmad Hicks. All right, guys, before we go around the horn, I want to start here in Chicago. GM Ryan Poles said that extending newly acquired guard Joe Thuney was a priority for the Bears this season. Bears got it done today. I think it's a big deal. They extended Thuney 2 more years, giving him now a 3-year deal. His new deal is worth $51 million, makes him the highest paid NFL guard at the end of his contract. And I love this move because Joe Thuney is so well respected in the NFL. He brings leadership that this Bears team has lacked for years. Bears had 8 captains last season. Not one offensive lineman was worthy of being a captain. This guy's won 4 Super Bowls. He played with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. He was a Pro Bowler the last 3 years, and he's a first-team All-Pro the last 2 seasons in Kansas City. I had a chance to talk with his former head coach, Andy Reid, about him at the NFL owners' meetings.
You're getting a phenomenal guy, great human being, an all-pro player, very tough, dirty tough. Doesn't say, again, a whole lot, but he's a good leader in that room. He's experienced. He's been doing it quite a while, so he gets it. You'll love him.
He help a quarterback, a young guy in Caleb Williams?
Yeah, he's a good player. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. And I found this interesting, guys. The Chiefs have $450 million quarterback, 2-time MVP, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes. But last year, Joe Thuney was named the Chiefs' most valuable player by his own teammates. Big-time move by the Bears. I want to bring in now the rest of the crew. The NFL released every team's full schedule last Wednesday. Everyone's had a week to digest it. Let's start with Week 1 in prime time, Monday Night Football. Bears host the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy's first career game back here where he grew up, LaGrange Park. Ahmad, I'm telling you right now, I'm making a statement. The Bears are going to win this game. They're catching McCarthy at the right time.
You think so, huh? You don't think Caleb Williams will have a sophomore slump or anything like that?
He better not. Not with a new offensive line and Ben Johnson as his head coach.
You know, I laughed when I first saw the schedule and I saw the Vikings were opening up their season on primetime. I think they have 4 primetime games this year. What better storyline? You have J.J. McCarthy going back to his home state of Illinois to get his first career NFL start with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and those Chicago Bears. I think that's just one of the bigger storylines of Week 1. I think it's going to be a phenomenal football game, and I think J.J. McCarthy will be on the spotlight, but I think the Vikings will do a tremendous job making sure that all those skilled players around him, you know, kind of take a little bit more of the workload than him. So I think while all eyes will be on JJ and how he does, I think Kevin O'Connell will make it to where it's an easy game for him, get the ball out of his hands and things like that. But still a long ways to go before we get to Week 1, Lou. Still a long way. So we could be talking about how Caleb Williams isn't getting adjusted to this, you know, Ben Johnson offense. You never know, Lou.
You might be right. You might be right. Before I let you go, Ahmad, let me quickly ask you, because I saw this break today out of Minnesota, that the Vikings they're going to have joint practices with the New England Patriots and Drake May. A little pressure on McCarthy going up against May in a joint practice?
You know, I think that's a phenomenal team to bring here to Egan and to practice against before the season starts. It's a Mike Vrabel-led team. He's the first-year head coach with the Patriots, and I think he's going to instill that toughness in that group, especially in the trenches. So what better way to test out all your new acquisitions that you have? Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, you know, Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, Donovan Jackson. All these guys will get a big test in the preseason before the actual season starts. So I love the move to bring the Patriots in here to practice ahead of that Week 2 preseason game.
Yeah, I'm with you. Bears' first 6 weeks of the schedule, real gauntlet, man, tough. But even if they don't get off to a great start, I still think that they're going to finish strong. Don't forget, Bears fans that are watching this show, Bears opened up 4-2. We thought we were going to the playoffs, and we know what happened during that 10-game stretch. Bears have the Vikings. Then they go to Detroit. And then they've got the Cowboys and Matt Eberflus here in Chicago. Then they travel to Vegas, early bye week, week 5, before they visit the Commanders on Monday Night Football. New head coach, new offensive and defensive schemes, as Ahmad just said. I like the bye in week 5. If the Bears struggle to open up the season, it gives Ben Johnson a real chance to regroup with his coaches. The other divisional week 1 game is the Packers hosting the Lions. Packers' first week 1 home opener since 2018. Tim, how do you feel about that?
First one ever for Matt LaFleur. He's never had a home opener. Kind of crazy that's true, but that will change in a big way this year. Jennifer, curious to know what the Lions' take is on this assignment, but big test right out of the box for the Packers at home against such a good team from last year. And then they play Thursday night at home against the Commanders as well. Now, granted, both those games are at home, but 2 NFC heavyweights right out of the box. Then it softens a little bit before the bye, and then it's going to get real tough at the end for the Packers. So Detroit right out of the chute. A lot of hype on that one for sure, deservedly so. I think here we are, we're talking about the NFC North. We're going to be doing this all football season long, guys, because I just think the stage is set for some classic matchups this year throughout these 4 teams.
Tim, you are so right. I love it. Lions, just one of 3 teams to play both Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. Jen, Lions led the division with the most primetime games after going through the schedule. Woof! This Lions schedule is tough. You still have the Lions winning 10 or 11?
Yeah, I do. I actually have them winning 11 games. But with that said, it's going to take a whole lot of moxie for them to go on the road and do it. They have 0 games, this many, at 1 o'clock on a Sunday on the road. Everything else is either in prime time or at 4:25. They've got 12 nationally televised games, including 5 in prime time. They've got to play 4 in the preseason because of the fact that they play that Hall of Fame game on July 31st. So they're going to start even earlier. As you mentioned, Lou, they play on Christmas. They play on Thanksgiving. They wrap up the season in January 4th at Soldier Field. They play on the road at Baltimore, on the road at Kansas City. They play Sunday night in Philadelphia in November. I mean, this is absolutely a gauntlet. But you know what? Dan Campbell wouldn't have it any other way. I think that things got maybe a little too easy for the Lions last season when they got all the way to 15-2 and they had that number 1 seed. They didn't play a lot of outdoor games, and it turns out that they lost their first weekend at home with that number 1 seed coming off the bye. So I think this team definitely, the schedule has its attention. What happened last season has their attention. The fact that they open up against the division rival in Green Bay in prime or in a nationally televised game has their attention. And also that they'll be hosting Ben Johnson and the Bears in week 2 for the season opener has their attention. So I don't think there's going to be a lot that this team is going to miss. And I don't think that includes missing their coordinators.
No. Tim, let me bring you back because I look at that Packers schedule. What a gauntlet from week 12 on. Vikings, 4 days later. Packers play the Lions on Thanksgiving. We just heard Jen talking about it. Bears twice in 3 weeks. Broncos, Ravens, and then they wrap up the season in Minnesota. How about the end of the year for the Pack?
You're absolutely right. And bookend it there, you've got Detroit and Minnesota on the screen. And what do you see between that? 4 straight outdoor cold games in December. You know, that used to be kind of a Packer advantage, maybe. I'm not sure that it is with Jordan Love and what they're trying to do. Yes, if you've got Josh Jacobs going on the ground, but they're going to try to diversify a little bit more offensively this year. And you got 4 outdoor games in December. The Bears twice. Finally seeing the Bears at the end of the year there, Lou. It's going to be very interesting for this Packers team. And even earlier in the year, I wouldn't describe it as a gauntlet, but I think this Packers season, it's going to be kind of high intensity every week. You have a game at Pittsburgh. Well, that might be a softer spot. But what if they sign Aaron Rodgers, which I fully expect them to do? Where's the hype machine for that game? You have the Giants. That could be a softer game. But you play the Eagles on Monday night before that, and then you travel to New York. So even the so-called soft spots don't look to be so soft in my mind.
No, they don't. Ahmad, NFL really banking on the Vikings this season, man. They'll play 2 games abroad.
I know.
Also open up the season on prime time the first 2 weeks. A few weeks ago, you were drinking the Vikings Kool-Aid on this show. You said that they were going to win 12 games. I thought you needed your temperature taken at that point. You still think that's the case?
No, I don't know. After looking at that schedule, it's like, they start the season, you have the Bears, in Chicago. That's like, all right, that's a winnable game. Then you kind of look at the next couple of matchups, and you kind of think, all right, they have their runway to kind of get off to a smooth start. After that, they have the Falcons with Michael Penix Jr., who, maybe he may not be able to pick up on a Brian Flores-led defense that early on in his career. You got Joe Burrow. Then you got the Steelers, who we don't know who's going to play quarterback. Then you got the Browns, all right? So you're talking about the Vikings being able to get off to a good start. Then they're going to be tested going from Dublin to London, going to stay there for 10 days. Then got to bye early on in the season. So you hope J.J. McCarthy's able to settle down. But then when you come back, you got the Eagles, the Chargers, the Lions, the Ravens, the Bears, and the Vikings. I mean, they are going to be battle tested, I believe, all season long. And then it just continues from there on out. You still got the Cowboys, Giants to round out the season. Those could be very talented teams offensively. So, yes, my temperature probably did need to be checked just a little bit, Lou. I'm rubbing off on some of the Minnesotans here. So, yes, I did say 12 wins. I'm going to cool it down to maybe like 9 or 10. I think that'll do good in this division. I think 9 or 10 maybe still get you to the playoffs, right?
Yeah, it sure does. I think in this division, 10 gets you into the playoffs. I want to talk about who's going to win the NFC North. Get your predictions ready, guys. But before you jump in, here's what former Packer Clay Matthews had to say.
Who do you think's going to take the NFC North?
I think Detroit. I'm interested to see how Buddy from Michigan does for
J.J. McCarthy,
Minnesota.
Yeah,
they've obviously got a great team, the Vikings, but Detroit is just they've got that it factor right now. Until someone until someone dethrones them. I mean,
Bears have a sneaky roster.
Packers
nice.
are right there. I think that'll be the best division.
Tim, Matthews endeared himself to Packers fans at the draft. I don't know if they want him back now.
I think he gets a long leash with Packer fans, Lou. Clay Matthews, a great player, popular player during his day, but he didn't really sing too much about the Packers there. You're exactly right. I think that I personally, are we going with predictions here?
Yes.
If we are, I'd go with Detroit just because of what they did last year, the ability to win. Yes, I think it's a tough schedule for Detroit. I think it's a tough schedule across the board. I know that say what you want about odds makers in May, but the Packers are supposedly favored in 13 of 17 games. So you do that, I think 13 wins will get you there. I don't think the Packers are going to win 13 games. I think Detroit wins what's just going to be a crash course in this division this year.
Who do you have, Ahmad?
I'm gonna have to go with Detroit. I mean, until someone is able to dethrone them here in this division or match up toe-to-toe with them in the trenches, I just think that they have the blueprint right now. And I think, until someone proves otherwise, you got to go with the Lions.
Jen, quickly, Detroit?
Yeah, I think Clay Matthews is a pretty smart guy. I mean, after all, he went to a Big Ten school. He knows that this is the best division in all of football, and so far, Detroit is the best team in the division. The last 2 seasons have bore that out. And I do think that as tough as the schedule is, they are going to be able to go on the road, run the ball, and win some really gritty games defensively and running the ball.
I've got Detroit, 21 guys last year on the injured list. They'll never go through injuries like that again. We need to take a time out. A lot of excitement after the schedule release, but that was not the talk around here in Chicago. Caleb Williams did not want to be a Bear. What? Wait till you hear what Boomer Esiason had to say on the matter. Next, when we come back here on First and North.
Major League Baseball on Fox.
What I'm doing, getting right to it. The money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I do it. Oh my goodness.
Major League Baseball all season long on Fox.
Welcome back to First and North. Lou Canellis at our Fox 32 studios in Chicago. Jennifer Hammond is in Detroit. Tim Van Vooren, Milwaukee. Ahmad Hicks in Minneapolis. All right, schedule was released Wednesday of last week. Here in Chicago, City, though, a bit shocked after ESPN senior writer, author Seth Wickersham released some quotes from his latest book about Caleb Williams not wanting to come to Chicago. His father, Carl, said, quote, "Chicago is a city where quarterbacks go to die." Carl said that Caleb might skip the NFL draft, go to the United Football League. Caleb told his dad he really wanted to go play for Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings. Ahmad, what if that happened? Would you rather have Caleb Williams or J.J. McCarthy?
That's kind of hard to say right now. I can speculate and say you can never turn down Caleb Williams and a number 1 overall pick, though. I'll say that.
Okay, that's a good answer. That's a good answer, especially with his respect for Kevin O'Connell. Former MVP and 4-time Pro Bowl quarterback Boomer Esiason talked about this topic on his radio show on The Fan. He went off on Caleb.
The level of entitlement is breathtaking. And it's no wonder why he failed initially, and it's no wonder why the coach got fired. So now they go out and get an offensive coach in Ben Johnson, and you know what? Now it's on his. It's going to be on his to live up to these so-called lofty expectations that he has for himself and that his father has for his son. You know, and I understand, you know, that there could be a discussion. Hey, this is where quarterbacks go to die. Well, you know, go fix it. Be the reason that the team is going to turn it around and you be the player that you think you are. And I would just tell them, you know, just keep your mouth shut. You're going into the greatest league that there's ever been for the sport that we all love. You're going to have a chance one day to make $500 million. So keep your pie hole shut and go out and play football and earn your keep and earn your respect.
Wow. Guys, I have great respect for Boomer Esiason. Let me start with that. Terrific work on CBS, been a popular talk show host in New York for many years on the radio. And in most cases, I would agree with what he said about kids these days and entitlement. But let me say this about Caleb Williams. He's wrong. Caleb Williams did not fail last year, for starters. He struggled. Guy didn't fail. This guy was put in a no-win situation. Still, should have won the game at Washington, should have won at Detroit, should have beaten the Packers at home, and took the Vikings to overtime. And Williams put them in position to win those football games. His fourth quarter numbers, go back and look at them. They were terrific. Caleb Williams struggled because he did not have an offensive line, and his coaches failed him from the get-go. And I can't argue with his dad, Carl Williams, talking about where this is the place quarterbacks come to die. Listen, Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields have not left and suddenly become Pro Bowl quarterbacks in this league. So let's keep it real, all right? They went to Pittsburgh. They were okay. Carl Williams, yeah, he knew that maybe this was not the best spot for his son. But still, Caleb Williams made his own call. He said, I'm going to go to the city. I'm not going to nuke the city. I can do it for this team. I'm going to the Bears. And despite getting thrown around like a rag doll, we've talked about it on this show, 68 quarterback sacks. This guy never threw his teammates under the bus. He never blew off the media. He answered all the questions. And I'm going to end with this. Did Boomer go after John Elway? Hey, Elway refused to play for the Baltimore Colts.
I was thinking the same thing, Lou.
Right? He refused to play for the Colts when they were in Baltimore and they drafted him first. Did Boomer rip Eli Manning, who said he wasn't going to play for the Chargers and he forced a trade to the Giants? And how about Boomer himself? Do a little background check on Boomer himself. Back in 1984, he told Peter King, great NFL writer, that I don't care if they draft me, I'm never going to step foot on the field for the Indianapolis Colts because Boomer was a Maryland Terp and he was upset that the Colts left Baltimore for Indy. Yeah, Boomer's right. The pressure is now on Caleb Williams to produce with a new offensive line and one of football's great offensive minds as his head coach. But going after Caleb Williams for considering his options, I think that is wrong. What do you think, Ahmad? You're pretty outspoken. What do you think on what Boomer said about Caleb Williams?
Look, some of it was spot on, Lou, but I really dislike when a former athlete or anyone of popular status tells an athlete or anyone to shut up and just play ball. Like, they have a right to have an opinion. They have a right to have feelings. And you're talking about a guy who's been a winner pretty much his entire life, going into a pretty much terrible situation and then having to be the savior for that city. That's tough mentally on any athlete. And I think these old school athletes always love to have this tough mantra like, oh, I can do it. We had to do this. We didn't have this much. Okay, that's cool. But you guys don't have to go through all the social media stuff that these young athletes have to endure nowadays. So I really dislike when former athletes or public figures tell someone to shut up and just go play ball. But I do kind of agree with what he said. Like, leave some of that prima donna, ness out there. go do what you got to do. But ultimately, Caleb did do that this past season. Like you said, he didn't throw his teammates under the bus. He stood up there, gave them chances to win against very good football teams, and I think he's going to have a good future. Who cares what all that book, all those quotes had to say? That was last year before the season. He wasn't a drama or a headache during the season, so leave it be and save those comments for yourself.
Good points. How about it, Tim? What do you think?
Ahmad's pretty dialed up there. I like it. I think when it's all said and done, Caleb has the chance to kind of change this narrative, Lou, and I'm curious whether you think any of this sticks to him within the team as he goes forward. I don't know that it does. The people that are going to come out of this looking worse than anybody are last year's Bears coaches. My goodness, they don't have a chance to rectify this story or change things around at all. Maybe they had a point, maybe they don't. I don't know, but they no longer have a vehicle to get their side out there. Ben Johnson, new coaching staff, that's going to be seen one way. Caleb Williams back, however he handles this. Last year's Bears coaches, maybe they deserve all the slings and arrows, but they're never going to be put in positions of responsibility again after the way this thing went down.
Great point. John, what do you think?
Boomer is dead wrong. Once upon a time, Detroit was the place where quarterbacks went to die. And he actually was a little bit outspoken about Matthew Stafford in his time here, saying that he needed to have more passion and speak up more about this team. Boomer Esiason does forget the things that happened with John Elway and Eli Manning, to your point, Lou. But at the same time, for Caleb Williams' story to be told in that way at this point in time, I think is just trash. No one should be dumping on that kid. He is here, he is playing, he is trying to win, and with Ben Johnson, he will win. He's got an offensive line now that's starting to build, get stronger, and that's what the kid needed. He also needs a coordinator and a head coach that can satisfy game plans that support his strengths. It's going to be incredible to see the resurgence of Caleb Williams in Chicago based on what went on and what's been said about him in the offseason, because this kid has a load of talent, and I think that he's in the right place, and he's going to prove everybody wrong.
You're spot on right. All right, thanks, Jen. We need to take our final timeout. Each team released videos to announce their 2025 schedule. Our teams took some jabs along the way. Wait till you see this next.
The UFL is history in motion, built one story at a time. It's the gunslingers, the burners, and the cold-blooded.
A star is born!
It's a dynasty that went back to back to back. This is the UFL. The stories continue.
Big changes this offseason for the Detroit Lions, with Ben Johnson to the Bears and Aaron Glenn to the Jets, and Jahmyr Gibbs changing his jersey number to 0 in honor of the number of Super Bowls the Lions have.
Oh, man, Jen. Shots fired. Bulletin board material, right?
Yeah, I'm just upset because I got my son a Gibbs jersey this past season, and now he's got the original one. I do think that, you know what, you get what you are, and that's what the Lions have done so far, 0 Super Bowls. They may change that, and when they do, I guess they'll have the last laugh.
Exactly. Chargers stole the show once again with the video. Bears don't play the Chargers, but still found their way into their video. Showed Tyreek Stevenson and the incident he had in Washington. Check out this shot to the Vikings as well, who they play in Week 8. Shows Sam Darnold swapping teams and looking at banners. Vikings' best record amongst wildcard teams in the Minnesota Wild taking some heat as well. Says 8-time quarterfinal runner-up with the years 2015 to 2025. Ahmad, stick up for your teams.
There's nothing left to say right there after that video. It's all facts, you know. So Vikings, the Wild, the Timberwolves, they got to prove some people wrong, and the Timberwolves still have a chance right now.
I love it. Hey, guys, great show as always. Thanks for joining us. For Jennifer, Tim, and Ahmad, I'm Lou Canellis. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week right here on First and North.